I was sitting in my law office reviewing the final divorce papers for a client when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. After 15 years of building my life from nothing, I had achieved everything I ever dreamed of. Successful family law practice, six-figure income, beautiful home that I owned outright. I was completely at peace with my life until I read those words that made my blood run cold. Hi, Gloria. This is your mom. I know it has been 15 years, but I really need to talk to you. Your sisters and I have been going through some tough times. Before I tell you how I protected myself from the family that abandoned me, drop a comment about where you are watching from, and if you have ever had toxic family members try to come back into your life, hit that like button, because you will understand the emotional roller coaster I was about to experience. But trust me, what they wanted from me will absolutely disgust you. To understand why that text message felt like a knife to my heart, you need to know how my childhood ended when I was just 8 years old. My biological mother Karen decided one night that her new boyfriend Jake was more important than her youngest daughter. I remember that night like it was yesterday, watching her pack suitcases in the dark, while my two older sisters Ashley and Brittany helped her load the car. When I asked where they were going, she knelt down and looked me in the eyes with a coldness that still haunts me. "You are too difficult, Gloria. You look too much like your father, and Jake does not want you around. You will stay with Grandma Helen. I will come back for you soon." Those were the last words my mother spoke to me for 24 years. Ashley was 10 and Brittany was 12, both old enough to understand what was happening, but too young to stand up for their baby sister. They left with her that night, choosing the promise of a new life over loyalty to me. Grandma Helen was 65 years old and living on a small Social Security check when she suddenly became responsible for raising her abandoned granddaughter. She never complained, never made me feel like a burden, but I could see the financial strain in the way she counted grocery money and turned the heat down during winter months. I learned to be independent, fast cooking simple meals, doing my own laundry, and completing homework without supervision, because Grandma worked part-time cleaning offices to make ends meet. For the first few years, I would ask constantly when Mommy was coming back. Grandma Helen would get a sad look in her eyes and change the subject, always saying, "Focus on your future, sweetheart. That is what matters now." The occasional phone calls on my birthday stopped after the third year. Ashley and Brittany sent Christmas cards twice, but they were generic cards with just their names signed, no personal messages or updates about their lives. When I turned 12, I found my mother's new address through a friend whose mother worked at the post office. I wrote letter after letter, pouring my heart onto paper, telling her about school achievements, asking about my sisters, begging to visit for just one weekend. None of those letters were ever answered. I would check the mailbox every single day for months, hoping for some sign that my family still cared about me. The silence was deafening. Academic achievement became my escape and my salvation. While other kids were dealing with normal family drama, I threw myself into studying with an intensity that impressed every teacher I ever had. I maintained straight A grades throughout middle and high school, not because anyone was pushing me, but because I knew education was my only path to a better life. When college acceptance letters started arriving, I had earned a full academic scholarship to State University. Grandma Helen passed away during my junior year of college from heart failure. I was devastated to lose the only person who had ever truly loved me unconditionally. The funeral was small, just me, a few of her church friends, and the pastor who had known our family for decades. I kept hoping right up until the service started that maybe somehow my biological family would appear to pay their respects to the woman who had raised me when they abandoned their responsibilities. They never came. After graduation with honors from law school, I was recruited by one of the most prestigious family law firms in the state. The irony was not lost on me that I had chosen to specialize in the very area of law that governed the dysfunction I had experienced firsthand. I understood abandonment, custody disputes, and family trauma in ways that textbooks could never teach. My clients connected with me because I genuinely understood their pain. 8 years into my legal career, I made the decision to open my own practice. The financial risk was enormous, but I had saved every penny and lived below my means since starting work. Within 2 years, my client base had grown to the point where I was earning more money than I had ever imagined possible as a child, counting grocery money with my grandmother. I bought a beautiful house in the best neighborhood, drove a reliable car, and had built the stable, independent life that 8-year-old Gloria had dreamed about during those long nights, wondering why she was not good enough to keep. Staring at that text message, my hands started shaking so violently that I nearly dropped my phone. 24 years of silence, and now suddenly Karen wanted to talk because she and my sisters were going through tough times. The audacity of reaching out only when they needed something was breathtaking, but not entirely surprising given what I remembered about my mother's character. I spent 20 minutes staring at those words before I could even formulate a response. Memories flooded back of that 8-year-old girl who used to sit by the window every afternoon watching for a car that never came. The rational part of my brain, the part trained in family law and psychological manipulation, recognized this contact for what it probably was. But the wounded child inside me whispered, "Maybe they really missed you." Finally, I typed back, "Who is this? How did you get my number?" I needed to hear her say. It needed confirmation that this was really happening. Her response came within minutes, and I could practically hear the manipulation dripping through the text. "It is really me, your mom. I have been looking for you for years, honey. I found your law office online and called to get your information. I have been thinking about you every single day since we left. Your sisters miss you so much. We want to be a family again." Every sentence was a carefully crafted lie designed to pull at heartstrings I thought I had protected. The claim that she had been looking for years was laughable since I had been in the same city this entire time. My law practice was well known, and my name had been in the legal community for over a decade. If she had wanted to find me, it would have taken one Google search. After a week of internal debate, I agreed to one phone call. When I heard Karen's voice for the first time in 24 years, she sounded older and more worn down, but the manipulative tone was exactly the same as I remembered. She immediately launched into a sob story about how life had been so hard without me, how she had made terrible mistakes, and how the family was never complete without their smart, successful Gloria. The conversation revealed disturbing details about their current situation. Ashley, now 32, was a single mother working minimum wage jobs with 2 young sons. The father had abandoned them completely, leaving her struggling to provide basic necessities. Brittany, 34, was unemployed due to a gambling addiction that had cost her multiple jobs and relationships. Karen was still living with Jake in a trailer park, where his drinking problem had prevented him from maintaining steady employment for years. Within days of that first call, both of my sisters reached out separately. Ashley sent a long text message filled with apologies and explanations. "I am so sorry for everything that happened. I was just a kid following Mom, and I did not understand how wrong it was to leave you behind. I have thought about you constantly over the years. I need my big sister back in my life." Brittany called me crying hysterically about her mistakes and poor choices. "I have messed up everything in my life, Gloria. I need my big sister to help me figure out how to get back on track. You always were the smartest one of all of us. I should have stayed with you and Grandma instead of following Mom." What struck me immediately was how both conversations kept circling back to my success and their failures. They wanted to know what kind of law I practiced, how much money I made, what my house was like, whether I was married. None of them asked about my emotional well-being, my struggles growing up without family support, or how Grandma Helen's death had affected me. The curiosity was entirely one-sided, focused on what I could provide, rather than who I had become. During the second phone call with Karen, she asked directly about my legal specialization. When I mentioned family law and gave a general idea of my annual income, Her entire tone shifted. Suddenly, she became much more interested in maintaining regular contact. Ashley immediately started asking about my house, my car, and my lifestyle. Brittany began dropping hints about emergency situations that required temporary help from family members. The red flags were mounting rapidly, but part of me wanted desperately to believe that their outreach was genuine. I had spent my entire adult life wondering whether I had done something wrong to deserve abandonment. The professional side of my brain, trained to recognize manipulation in family dynamics, was screaming warnings. But the abandoned child inside me whispered that maybe finally they had realized their mistake and wanted to make amends. 3 weeks into our renewed contact, Karen called with her first direct request for money. She claimed they were about to be evicted from their trailer and needed just $2,000 to avoid homelessness. She promised to pay me back as soon as Jake found steady work, which she insisted was going to happen any day. When I hesitated, she played the guilt card. After everything I have been through raising your sisters alone, I think I deserve some help from my successful daughter. Blood is thicker than water, Gloria. The phrase raising your sisters alone particularly stung because she had chosen to raise them alone by abandoning me. But against my better judgment, I sent the money. Within days, Ashley was texting about needing funds for her son's school clothes because you are their aunt and they are family too. Brittany called in tears claiming she owed $5,000 to dangerous people, and her life was in danger if I did not help immediately. Rather than continuing to react emotionally to their escalating demands, I made the decision to use my legal resources to investigate their backgrounds. What I discovered through public record searches was even worse than I had imagined. Karen had been evicted from multiple properties over the past 5 years and had filed for bankruptcy 2 years earlier. Ashley was receiving food stamps and was behind on court-ordered payments from her children's father. Brittany had a criminal record for check fraud related to her gambling addiction, and court documents showed a pattern of financial irresponsibility going back years. Most damaging to their claims of wanting to reconnect out of love was what I found on social media. None of them had ever attempted to search for me online, despite my professional presence being easily discoverable. Their social media profiles showed no evidence of missing me or expressing regret about our separation. The decision to contact me had clearly been motivated by their current financial crisis, not by genuine familial affection. After I sent the initial $2,000, their requests multiplied rapidly. Ashley needed money for her children's medical bills, claiming that as their aunt, I had a responsibility to help with healthcare costs. Brittany's emergencies became increasingly dramatic, with claims about loan sharks threatening violence if she did not pay her gambling debts immediately. Karen wanted money for car repairs so she could come visit me properly and begin rebuilding our relationship. The emotional manipulation intensified with each request. "We gave up so much when we left," Karen would say during our phone calls, as if leaving me behind had been some kind of sacrifice rather than a selfish choice. Ashley started sending photos of her son's cute little boys, who had been coached to call me Aunt Gloria, in videos designed to tug at my heartstrings. Brittany threatened that if something happened to her because I refused to help her, blood would be on my hands. After 2 months of escalating financial demands and emotional manipulation, I agreed to meet with them in person. I chose a restaurant near my office, wanting the security of familiar territory and the ability to leave quickly if necessary. Karen showed up looking significantly older than her years, worn down by decades of poor choices, but still carrying herself with the same entitled attitude I remembered from childhood. Ashley brought her 2 young sons, clearly intending to use them as emotional leverage. The boys were sweet and well-behaved, and it broke my heart to see how they were being used as pawns in their mother's financial schemes. Brittany arrived 30 minutes late, clearly under the influence of something, and immediately asked if I could loan her $20 for parking and gas money. During the meal, the truth about their long-term intentions became crystal clear. Karen casually mentioned that they had always known I would be successful because I was always the smart one in the family. Ashley added that their mother had predicted I would probably become rich and be able to take care of all of us eventually. The implication was staggering. They had not abandoned me despite my potential success, but because of it. The plan had always been to return when I could provide for them financially. Then came the ultimate request that revealed the true scope of their intentions. Karen presented what she called a business proposal, where I would purchase a house that all three of them could live in together. She had calculated that my income would easily qualify me for a mortgage with a $50,000 down payment. Ashley needed stable housing because Child Protective Services had been monitoring her living situation. Brittany needed a safe place to recover from her addiction, though she showed no signs of actually wanting to get clean. Sitting in that restaurant booth, watching them plan my financial exploitation while using Ashley's children as emotional blackmail, I finally understood the full scope of their manipulation. They had saved me for later harvest, like a crop they intended to collect when I was mature enough to be profitable. The 8-year-old girl who had wondered why she was not good enough to keep now realized she had been too good, too valuable to waste on immediate gratification. I stood up calmly and placed my napkin on the table. This meeting is over. Karen's face shifted from confident expectation to shocked disbelief. You cannot just walk away from family Gloria. We are your blood. You walked away from me 24 years ago, I replied evenly. I am just returning the favor. Ashley started crying and grabbing for my arm. Please think about the kids. They need a stable aunt figure in their lives. I looked down at her and spoke with the clarity that had eluded me as a child. I am thinking about the kid you abandoned, who had to raise herself. These children deserve better than being used as manipulation tools. Brittany followed me toward the exit, clearly agitated and desperate. When she grabbed my arm and demanded that I stop being selfish, I gently removed her hand and said, I learned selfishness from experts. Karen's voice carried across the restaurant as other diners turned to stare. You will regret this family is forever. Without turning around, I called back. Then you should not have thrown it away when I needed it most. That night I blocked all of their phone numbers and changed my office contact information. I installed a security system at my house and informed my staff that under no circumstances should they provide personal information to anyone claiming to be family. The sense of relief was immediate and overwhelming, like a weight I had been carrying my entire life had finally been lifted from my shoulders. The immediate aftermath of cutting contact was surprisingly peaceful. For the first time in months, I slept through the entire night without waking up anxious about the next financial demand or emotional manipulation attempt. The stress I had not even realized I was carrying simply evaporated once their toxic presence was removed from my life. I felt lighter, clearer, and more focused on my work and personal well-being. However, they did not accept my boundaries quietly. Within a week, Karen showed up at my office building, demanding to speak with me about family obligations. Building security escorted her out after she became increasingly agitated and began shouting about ungrateful children. Ashley created multiple fake social media accounts to send me messages filled with photos of her children and guilt-laden appeals about family responsibility. Brittany tried calling from different phone numbers, but I had learned to recognize her voice patterns and immediately hung up. The most insidious attempts to circumvent my boundaries came through extended family members who had been fed manipulated versions of our story. Distant cousins and family friends began reaching out asking me to be reasonable and help family in need. When I explained the full context of their abandonment and recent exploitation attempts, most people immediately understood and supported my decision. Those who continued to pressure me after hearing the truth received the same boundary. This topic was completely off limits. 6 months after cutting contact, I learned through mutual acquaintances what had happened to each of them. Karen and Jake were evicted from their trailer and were living in their car moving between different parking lots and cheap motels. Ashley lost custody of her children to their paternal grandparents, who were able to provide the stability and resources she could not. While it was heartbreaking to think about those little boys being separated from their mother, I knew they would have better opportunities with family members who were not drowning in dysfunction. Brittany was arrested for theft after stealing money from her employer to pay gambling debts. She was sentenced to 18 months in county jail, which ironically provided the structured environment she needed to begin addressing her addiction. None of them took any responsibility for the consequences of their choices. According to the family members who updated me, all three continued to blame me for abandoning family and forgetting where I came from. The healing process was facilitated by therapy sessions, where I worked through both the original childhood abandonment and the recent manipulation attempts. My therapist helped me understand that I had been parentified as a child, forced to become emotionally and practically self-sufficient at an age when I should have been receiving care and protection. The recent reconnection attempt was a classic pattern of financial exploitation targeting successful individuals with family trauma histories. I learned the crucial difference between forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness was something I could work toward for my own peace of mind, but reconciliation required trustworthy behavior and genuine change from the other party. Their recent actions had proven that they remained fundamentally the same people who had abandoned me decades earlier. They were simply more sophisticated in their manipulation techniques. My professional life benefited enormously from this personal experience. I began specializing in helping other abandoned children navigate family reunification scams, using my legal expertise and personal understanding to protect vulnerable clients from exploitation. I wrote an article for a legal journal about financial exploitation by estranged family members, which was widely circulated and led to speaking engagements at family law conferences. The personal growth that resulted from successfully defending my boundaries transformed my romantic relationships as well. With my therapist's help, I learned to recognize healthy versus unhealthy relationship patterns and developed the confidence to build a meaningful partnership with someone who valued my independence rather than seeking to exploit it. For the first time in my adult life, I was able to trust someone completely because I had learned to trust my own judgment about people's motivations. 2 years later, my law practice had expanded to include a specialized division helping adult children of toxic families navigate complex reunification attempts. My professional reputation in this niche area brought clients from across the state who needed legal protection from family exploitation. The personal pain I had experienced became a source of professional expertise that helped hundreds of other people protect themselves from similar situations. The wisdom I gained from this experience fundamentally changed how I understood family relationships. Real family shows up during your worst times, not just when they need something from your best times. People who abandon you during childhood do not get to claim you when it becomes convenient for them as adults. Biology creates relatives, but loyalty and mutual respect create family. I no longer felt any guilt about maintaining permanent no contact with Karen, Ashley, and Brittany. They had shown me exactly who they were when they thought they could get away with it, and I believed them. Some doors should stay closed forever, especially when opening them only leads to more pain and exploitation. The 8-year-old girl, who had waited by the window for people who were never coming back, had finally learned that she deserved better than crumbs of attention from people who saw her only as a resource to be harvested. My current life is built on authentic relationships with people who value me as a whole person, not just for what I can provide financially. I have created a chosen family of close friends, mentor figures, and my romantic partner who understand that love is demonstrated through consistent actions, not just words spoken when someone needs help. This foundation of genuine care and mutual respect has given me the confidence to continue helping other people break free from toxic family cycles. They taught me that biology does not guarantee loyalty, but it took their return for me to learn that success does not obligate charity. Some people plant seeds in your life, and others just come to harvest what they never watered. I chose to protect my garden from those who only showed up for the harvest season. Have you ever had family members disappear from your life only to return when they needed something from you? How did you handle the guilt and pressure that comes with setting boundaries against people who share your DNA? Share your experiences in the comments below, because your story might help someone else who is struggling with similar family manipulation. Hit that like button if this story reminded you that you do not owe your success to people who contributed nothing to building it. Subscribe for more real stories about overcoming toxic family dynamics and building healthy boundaries. Please share this video with anyone who needs to hear that blood relation does not excuse bad behavior or create unlimited obligations. Remember that protecting yourself from exploitation is not selfish. It is necessary for your mental health and continued success. Thank you for listening to my journey of learning that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable people who mistake kindness for weakness. I hope my story gives you the courage to value yourself enough to say no to people who only value what you can give them.